Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us for today's event, the top 5 customer experience trends for 2021 and beyond, a topic I'm very excited about. My name is Allie Lippman, and I am a customer experience account executive at BrainSell. I will be your host for today's event. Before we jump in, I just need to cover a few housekeeping items. This will be a 45-minute interactive discussion, so if at any time you have questions, just drop them into the question box and we will interject as appropriate. We are recording this event and we will share the recording via email. You will likely see that in your inbox tomorrow morning. Finally, and the best part, you'll be receiving an email from Zendesk following the event to claim your $25 gift card for lunch from your meal delivery service of choice. Lunch is on us. Okay, with that, it's my pleasure to introduce you to our speakers for today's Lunch and Learn. On the line, we have Simeon Spearman, Senior Manager of Customer Insights at Zendesk, and Ark Mindal, Senior Solutions Consultant at Zendesk. Thank you so much for joining us, guys.
Be here.
Happy to be
here. Here's our agenda for today. We want this to be as interactive as possible with input and questions from the audience, so feel free to ask questions at any point. We're going to begin with a Q&A with Simeon to learn about the current and developing trends in customer experience. Then we will transition to Ark to show us Zendesk and the cool functionality in that. We'll close with any remaining questions from the audience. But before we jump into the Q&A, I want to give a brief introduction to BrainSell for those that are new to us. BrainSell is a growth enablement company, meaning we focus on people and process and technology to take a consultative approach to your business challenges in order to map out, sorry, that jumped ahead of me, in order to map out the best path to success. We have a deep cross-industry vision that allows us to offer a wide-angle view on unconventional solutions, because the best approach is rarely the most familiar. We provide you with access to a team of growth enablement consultants, data analysts, and a dedicated customer success manager to ensure continuous improvement and optimization of your technology investment. And we've been around for almost 30 years and are a premier Zendesk partner in North America. Okay, Simeon, let's jump into our discussion. So whenever we start off a Q&A, we like to ask an icebreaker as our first question to get to know our panelists. This is our icebreaker question for today. If you could only have 3 apps on your phone, which would they be?
It's a great question. I think for me, I use Apple Music for music, so I need that to focus and kind of get away from things during my workday. I use Strava for tracking my exercise, so that's been really helpful over the past year, especially as I try to stay fit. And then I guess my third would be FaceTime, which maybe a year ago I wouldn't have put that at the top, but my toddler daughter has a little Rolodex that she goes through each night of her grandparents and other people in our family that she wants to call on FaceTime each night. So I think I wouldn't be able to make it through each day without that.
That's adorable. How about you, Ark?
Yeah, similar to Simeon, music app is going to be one of my top ones. So Spotify is the one that I've been using for a while. So I have all my music, playlists, podcasts all on there. The next one would probably be the Reminders app, both for work and personal, and I can put a specific time when the task is due, so that helps me stay organized, and it's always on me, and that'll make sure that I actually do it if I can see it. And then the third one is probably the Stocks app, just to keep an eye on the market, see what's going on. Yeah, that's about it.
Cool. Yeah, Spotify would definitely be on there for me. I need a music app for sure. All right, let's talk CX. For the last few years, Zendesk has been conducting research on CX trends. Simeon, can you share with us a little bit more about how the research is conducted and why it's so important?
Absolutely. So we have 2 primary sources for the CX trends research. The first source is our benchmark data. So We have a program called Zendesk Benchmark with over 90,000 companies participating across 175 countries. And that gives us anonymized access to kind of aggregate and share product usage data, so we can share to the market what we're seeing firsthand as people use Zendesk throughout the year. The second source is a set of global surveys that we conduct among consumers, CX agents, and business leaders in 15 global markets. And we're able to use those to also define different segments. So a segment that I'll reference throughout the day is based on our benchmark data that we refer to as high performers. So these are teams that we've identified by looking at the benchmark data to find above average performance in customer satisfaction, first reply times, resolution times, and self-service ratio. And we'll reference best practices from them throughout the day. And then the why it's valuable and why it's important, I think the combination of the product usage data with the survey data really gives us a holistic view of the CX landscape. So we're able to ask, what are we seeing firsthand? How do we translate the product usage data into insights? And then what can we be asking of business leaders and agents about what they're seeing in the market and their day-to-day that could help inform where CX is headed and the trends that we need to be communicating out to everybody.
Very interesting. So even if you're not a Zendesk user, you should pay attention, because it sounds like you guys pull together a lot of really interesting research on the space.
Absolutely.
Cool. So I want to dive a little bit deeper here. I know in the latest research, Zendesk uncovered 5 key trends. I'm going to run through each of these one by one, and you can tell us a little bit more about them. The first one is spotlight on customer experience.
Yes, so with this trend, this is really about the recent surge in online kind of migration and adoption of digital technologies that consumers and businesses have kind of been forced to confront over the past year. The first kind of pillar of this trend is the digital experience imperative. So really looking at how what started as a global health crisis turned into an accelerant that's forced to transition into a truly digital first world. So we see more customers online than ever. E-commerce sales have jumped 30% over the past year and a half. And we're expecting companies to match the high bar set by digitally savvy leaders. So when you think of customers going online, kind of experiencing the best of direct to consumer customer experiences, as well as, interacting with giants like Amazon, we really start to see that customers are seeking good online customer experiences. So 65% of customers want to buy from companies that offer quick and easy online transactions. And like I mentioned, Amazon really sets a high bar here, where 49% of customers give Amazon the highest marks for customer service. The other element of this on the business side is really looking at CX becoming the business strategy. So in our surveys of consumers, we found that 75% of customers are willing to spend more to buy from companies that give them a good customer experience. And that really cuts both ways, right? So if you're a company that's creating a positive customer experience, what happens to the companies that create bad customer experiences? And we find that half of customers say that customer experience is more important to them now than it was a year ago. 63% of CX managers say that their company prioritizes CX more than a year ago. And customers, reward and punish companies based on the experiences that they provide. So half of customers say that they'll switch to a competitor after one bad experience, and 80% will switch after more than one bad experience. We also see the spotlight on CX emerging in customer demand for greater empathy. So 49% want agents to be empathetic, 54% want to buy from companies that prioritize diversity, equity, and inclusion in their communities and workplaces, and 63% want to buy from companies that are socially responsible. So making sure that that experience that you're providing is empathetic to the concerns and values of your customers is really key. And then on the high performer side, we've seen that high performing companies that are performing better against those key CX metrics like CSAT, et cetera, have been really quick to adopt omni-channel support to meet customers where they're at. So on higher performing peers, if you're not adapting to this kind of spotlight on CX that the market is demanding.
Yeah, wow, those are some really compelling numbers. Just for the sake of time, I want to go on to the second one, which is a more conversational world.
Absolutely. So this translates some of into what we were seeing with omni-channel, but also just a greater customer adoption of messaging apps overall. So 2.7 billion monthly users across the globe have adopted messaging apps. That spans from North America to Latin America and Asia. And we really started to see over the past year support requests over these apps. So thinking of like a WhatsApp or a Facebook Messenger has spiked significantly. So 100% year over year increase in average weekly ticket volume over WhatsApp, 60% growth in Facebook messaging. And then, the kind of other piece to this is really understanding that the changes that we've seen in customer behavior are likely to be permanent. So when we look at those channels and these other emerging channels that customers are starting to adopt, about 2/3 of customers used a new support channel in 2020, and 73% of those people say that they plan to keep using it. So it's one of those moments where, the market is shifting, the genie's out of the bottle, and people are likely to continue using these channels and to kind of continue to engage in the behaviors that they've adopted over the past year. We also find, within conversational customer experience that messaging is really that gateway, but there's been big support from tech giants. So Apple, Google, and Facebook, making it easier for businesses to integrate conversational support tools and messaging into the channels that they use. And a lot of this adoption has been driven by high activity sectors over the past year, like e-commerce and gaming, and other kind of direct-to-consumer channels are really scaling these messaging channels faster than everyone else. So we're eager to keep an eye on how that evolves and how those learnings can be translated to other industries as well.
Yeah, that's really fascinating. The third one is emphasis on agility.
Absolutely. So with rapid change comes the need to adapt, right? So it's the old adage that the only constant is change is really starting to translate into business processes and expectations. So over the past year, we've seen high volatility in support requests. So, volume is up year over year in a really big way. But this idea of agility and adapting quickly and easily has become a really high business priority. So among the business survey that we conducted, around 60% of those respondents said that adapting quickly and easily is a top priority. And this actually beat out other things like customer satisfaction, customer retention. So that to me really points out the emphasis that companies are putting on this. And it's also translating to how they boost efficiency from within. So we've seen blended agents who are using more than one support channel has jumped 30% compared to pre-pandemic levels. And then the high performers that we see in the benchmark data are using more than twice as many workflow management tools as lower performing peers. So if you're a high performer, you're really looking at how do you improve these processes and workflow where possible to deliver for your customers. So we do see a few kind of missed opportunities in the agility piece. So at the enterprise level, seeing a lot more adoption of AI and chatbots and less of that with smaller companies. So I think there's an opportunity gap there. And then the data access popped as a persistent challenge for agents in particular, and making sure that they're able to look at, have a holistic view of the customer and customer data when people reach out for support.
Yeah, it's interesting what you said about smaller companies. I think of technology and leveraging technology as sort of fortifying your workforce so that you can scale without adding additional human capital.
Absolutely, and there's huge opportunities there, I think, for kind of reducing overwhelm and finding ways to use automation to help with that.
Definitely, definitely. Okay, the fourth one is the future of work.
Yeah, so this is work smarter, not harder in every case, but with what we've already mentioned about higher volatility, increased ticket volume, things like that, there are rapid changes underway in the workplace, which I think we've all experienced in one way or another. So given all of that, 68% of the agents that we surveyed reported feeling overwhelmed. And part of that is due to higher volume, but part of that is also just adapting to new tools and processes. So whether it's something, as seemingly basic as video conferencing, or something that may be a little bit more involved, like adapting to new workflow and process management tools, overwhelm is very real. And that really creates this notion, particularly among agents, for the need for support and a supportive work environment. So more than 55% of agents were reporting that a supportive work environment is the most important thing to doing their job. And what we really need to keep in mind is how managers are creating that supportive work environment, and how are tools being used to kind of reduce overwhelm and tap into that. So I think there's a lot of opportunity for reimagining the workplace. I think we've all seen different companies come out with their work from home and kind of flexible and hybrid work plans. But we also see more kind of high performing teams starting to lean on developers and using APIs and different developer tools to customize their CX solutions in a way that kind of meet the needs and challenges that their agents are facing.
Right, yeah, and I think I have a very good example of this. We have a university who uses Zendesk in their business operations department, and they talked about the transition to remote work. Two things that I wanted to share. The first was that being able to share information about COVID policies. I was taking their web developer a really long time to get these FAQs online, and they were able to spin up a help desk and serve up self-service information to their employees about COVID policies really quickly. And the second was that sort of handshake or I guess handoff of information is when somebody fell ill or needed to take PTO, it was really easy for them to continue addressing an issue. So I think that all of those things are important, being able to quickly get up to speed and get context so that, if somebody does need to bow out of addressing something with a customer, you don't lose all of that institutional knowledge.
Absolutely. And I think your point about the internal help desk is something that the data really bore out for us as well, is a larger focus on investment in internal help desks and kind of helping a distributed workforce navigate changes internally as well, and improving that employee experience.
Absolutely. Okay, the fifth trend is the digital tipping point. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Right. So I would say that this trend is really where the previous four come together to create a sea change in how businesses and consumers are operating, right? So an interesting, though maybe expected, and I expect many people have probably experienced this stat, is that 50% of the folks that we surveyed said that their digital adoption timelines accelerated by 1 to 3 years in response to everything that's been going on. Another 25% said it was accelerated by 4 to 7 years. So just this notion that we did reach a tipping point, and it does drive change and kind of that need to be agile and also just adapt and accelerate the way that you meet the market. The other element of this is really looking at, where is investment headed? So we did some additional research on budget outlooks and kind of what we call, mature CX companies. And there's kind of a diverging path between these companies that accelerated their timelines and accelerated their investment in CX. So among those that are furthest along in their CX journey, they're 7 times more likely to significantly increase their investment in CX over the next year. And that's compared to earlier stage peers that aren't quite there. And in doing so, they're actually more than 6 times more likely to exceed their customer retention goals. So just this idea that, people that are really at the forefront and are really thinking seriously about the CX journey are kind of doubling down in a lot of ways, versus companies that are earlier stage, maybe dipping their toes in the water. So a lot to kind of look at there in terms of adoption, implementation, et cetera, within this digital tipping point that's emerged.
Yeah, I think that data really supports our experience in the space. You know, when we went on lockdown, we weren't really sure what to expect, but we did find that a lot of sort of paint the barn projects emerged for companies that were looking to implement digital solutions to support this new world of work. So, so we've seen the sea change as well here in this space, and a lot of success from customers who do take this route. All right. So now I'm going to ask you a question, a personal question. If, in your opinion, if a company could only pick one of these 5 trends to focus on, which one do you think is the most important right now?
Sure. Right now, I would actually say that agility continues to kind of shape things through 2021 in a really big way, right? Kind of apart from the CX trends research, we've seen among business leaders this demand to really focus on the now and what they need to be implementing over the next 12 months to kind of adapt to everything that's been going on, and agility is really core to that. We actually conducted some additional research on the agility topic this year, which I will not go through every element of that, but there were 3 kind of business imperatives that really emerged in our deep dive. So the first is really make it easy to understand and respond to customer preferences. So whether that's listening to what customers want and offering those channels at every stage of the journey, like we saw with messaging earlier on, keeping a pulse on evolving trends. So thank you for joining us today so you can do that. Really looking at how customer experience data can break down the silos within the organization, and then focusing that experience on the unified view of the customer is key. The second imperative is really designing the team to stay productive through change. So what are the processes and standards that can be created to drive greater collaboration? How can automation be used to reduce the more redundant tasks that agents are facing and help reduce that burnout? And how can we power smarter businesses through things like artificial intelligence and machine learning? The third imperative is moving quickly with flexibility and easy to use tools that empower everyone. So looking at ways to take advantage of open technologies, easy to use, low code tools that empower everyone to be more agile, and uniting the business through app and partner integrations that can kind of supercharge your workflows.
Awesome. So now we're going to take a deeper dive into the choice of our webinar attendees today. So thank you for answering our question. We, as part of the registration process for this event, asked folks to choose which trend they thought was the most interesting and wanted to learn the most about. So that being said, looks overwhelmingly like folks wanted to dive into trend number 4, which is the future of work. Are you surprised this is such a huge area of interest?
I am not surprised at all. Yeah, I think there's really a lot to dive into here. I think it may actually be good when it comes to the future of work to really look at best practices that we noticed among the higher performers. So support teams, obviously, they're facing new pressures and unprecedented changes as work continues to evolve. And a best practice that we're seeing there among the high performers is that they're 33% more likely to use apps and integrations to extend their CX solutions. So this dovetails nicely that 92% of mid-sized companies are actually adding tools and processes, but using apps and integrations to extend your solution is really key and something that the high performers are really leaning into. We have also noticed that many teams don't have the right tools at their disposal to succeed, but among the high performers, they're making sure that they use data and metrics for success. And the high performers are 46% more likely to use an analytics reporting solution for CX over low and middle performing companies, and making sure that their CX teams are in supportive work environments and all of that we've already seen that the agents' demand is really good, but also making sure that everyone's clear on what are the metrics for gauging success, and implementing those analytics and reporting tools effectively is really key. The third kind of area here among the high performers is really looking at how internal teams work together, looking at new ways to engage employees. So some of that speaks to the internal help desk conversation we tapped on earlier. But again, extending your capabilities. So high performers are 40% more likely to use developer tools to develop customized CX solutions. They're 53% more likely to report that they're looking for new ways to engage employees, whether that's through culture, workflow, employee feedback, et cetera. These are really key to the high performers, and kind of pulls that empathy thread too to the internal environment as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I keep coming back to the idea of scalability, so that even if certain channels of communication aren't on the radar right now, that you really want your business systems to support eventually moving into those channels. You want to be thinking sort of down the road a little bit about how your customers might want to reach you.
Absolutely.
Well, I want to pause at this point and just remind everybody to drop their questions into the question box as you think of them, and we'll get to them shortly. But Simeon, what trends outside of these 5 that we've discussed today do you see developing?
Sure. I think there are 3 that our customer insights team we're starting to pay attention to. One of those is really looking at everything that's come through in the survey data and kind of these ideas of the business imperative. And I think that this audience knows that there's kind of a business imperative for adopting CX tools, but really looking at, as these shifts have happened over the past year and a half and kind of accelerated these timelines, how are companies unlocking growth, and how can we kind of quantify that, define that, and kind of help other organizations tap into that growth as well by applying best practices. We touched a little bit on artificial intelligence and chatbots. I think it's another area where we're seeing some interesting momentum in terms of how do we reduce agent burnout, how do we make sure that customers are able to help themselves and feel good about it when they have to. And then the other element of this is when they do finally have to reach out to someone and support, how are we creating these conversational experiences? So we've seen this kind of rapid adoption of messaging over the past year and a half, and how is that really going to shape the landscape moving forward? And what are these high performers starting to do, and what are the tools that they're starting to use to kind of not only deliver through more conversational channels like WhatsApp and Facebook messaging, but also more conversational, empathetic experiences through personalization, reducing the need for people to repeat themselves, et cetera. So I think there's a lot there, and we're going to be using a lot of 2021 and moving into 2022 to track those things.
So interesting, thank you. So finally, how is Zendesk using this research to impact its customer experience technology?
Absolutely. So the research is really intended to identify opportunities and translate that into the product. So whether it's influencing a technology by crafting more positive customer experiences, or demonstrating to people where there are opportunities to extend their capabilities. We have teams of research and insights folks. I'm a customer insights person, but we've got people doing market insights, user experience research, et cetera, to really look at how we can use data, qualitative and quantitative feedback in everything that we're doing to craft these more positive customer experiences. So it's really kind of delivering on this idea of insights and data-driven feedback.
Yeah, and my understanding of even the history of the design philosophy behind Zendesk was that the customer experience tools that are provided are meant to be a reflection of what the demand is by our consumers.
Absolutely, and that's why something like the benchmark program, where we're able to look at this product usage data and kind of translate that into trends and insights into where things are headed, is so critical as well.
Yeah, awesome. So I think that's a really good segue. I want to leave time to show this thing in action. So at this point, we're going to hand things over to Ark. And Ark, you can take it away. Let's check out how Zendesk addresses some of the trends that we've discussed.
Perfect, thank you. Can everyone see my screen here?
Yeah, looks great.
Okay, awesome. Actually, I'm just going to share a couple of slides really quickly, then we'll pop right into it. Okay, so before hopping into the product, I just wanted to give everyone a quick overview of the different solutions that we support within the Zendesk suite, so you have an idea of exactly what's going to be touched upon within the demonstration, and just have an idea of what we offer. So first and foremost, and what we'll be really living in for most of the demo today, will be our support instance, and that's basically our agent support software solution, which is going to be the single source of truth for your agents, so they have all the information in one area versus having to toggle between multiple windows. Next, we have Guide, which is going to be our help center, and that's going to be the knowledge base with all the information at a particular customer. The help center is fully customizable, and we'll see examples of that today as I kind of initiate a chat from the Guide, as well as searching for information within the Guide. Then we have Chat, which is self-explanatory, which is going to be that chat bot, which is going to allow that live interaction between a customer and an agent. And then we'll touch on Talk, which is our telephony solution, which will allow you to handle an inbound or outbound phone call. I will be demonstrating an outbound phone call just to show how it works. And we do also integrate with any sort of third-party telephony solutions as well if needed, such as a Cisco or RingCentral. And then lastly here, in terms of what we're going to see in the demo, I'm also going to touch upon Explore, which is our built-in analytics tool. So if a manager wants to find out information about a specific amount of tickets or what type of tickets are coming in through what type of channel, the first response time, all that data will lie within Explore. And the idea there is you don't need a separate analytics tool to crunch the numbers and assess how Zendesk is being utilized by your customers and your agents. And then a couple things we're not going to touch on, but that is part of the suite, is Zendesk Sell, which is going to be our CRM solution, which is available, sold separately. We also have Gather, which is a community forum that's going to empower customers to connect and collaborate with one another. Then there's Sunshine, which is what Zendesk is built on, which is our open API flexible platform. And then last but not least, Sunca, which is Sunshine Conversations, which is going to allow you to share a single continuous conversation with every team in your business. And with a unified API, native connectors to popular applications such as Slack, everyone in your organization can get access to a single view of the customer conversation. All right, so without further ado, let's go ahead and hop right into it. So right now we're going to be starting at the support center, the help center of Guide. And here as a customer, you have the ability to conduct some self-service. So let's say in this case, our customer, Rick Sable, who's logged in, he's looking for some order information. He can't find it. He never got that order confirmation email. And he can see that the articles are being auto-suggested based on what he's typing in. And he's looking at, hey, how do I track my order here? And then now we're going to get into that Help Center article, which is fully configurable, and giving him information on how he can go ahead and track that. All the steps are here. He's already kind of done this. This isn't exactly what he's looking for. He can also notate if the article is helpful or not helpful. He can also submit a request, and he can also look at other similar articles here on the left. I'm going to pop back here. And then notice we do have 3 different brands. So you can have multiple brands within an instance to give a different customer experience for each brand. I'm not going to spend too much time, but I can just kind of show how each of these brands look a little different. So this is Entertainment 276 Outfitters, looking specific for more apparel related stuff. And then over here, we have Home Decor, which is, more home furnishings type of stuff over here. So you can have a unique experience broken out by different brands on the website. That functionality is here, but really the main value for the support center is customers have that self-service option that can relieve some of the pressure off of your agents to see if they can find what they need just through the help center. But let's say in this situation, he didn't find what he wanted. He wants to go ahead and reach out to a customer. So we can go ahead and activate that answer bot. Right here, it's located on the bottom right corner, and we can customize this to have it on the bottom left or on the top. It doesn't really matter. And it did say help, but we can have it say chat or support, but it doesn't matter here. So the bot greets us, welcome to Entertainment 276. Ask me a question, I can help you find the answer. I am having trouble finding my most recent order. And now the bot's gonna think and initially try to suggest a couple of articles. Well, we already looked at some of these articles, so I won't click into them, but this gives us that first line of defense where if the user didn't look for anything, now it's easy enough to click into those. So let's get in touch. We want to talk to an agent in this case. We do have two options. So right now, Rick does have the time, so we'll go ahead and initiate that live chat here from the chatbot. Otherwise, if he was in a rush and wanted to just send an email, he could go ahead and send an email. Either way, whether he's initiating a chat or an email, it will go ahead and create a ticket, and that ticket message history will always be retained. But let's go ahead and initiate that live chat. We can have a department being auto-selected, and in this case, it does let us select which department. So we'll just do customer care, that's fine. And he'll just say, hi, I am having trouble finding my most recent order. And then we'll go ahead and initiate this chat. Really quickly here, I need to change my window because now I'm going to go into the agent workspace. All right, let me zoom in a little bit. Sometimes it's a little small. All right, so here I do have the chat up here that I can go ahead and accept. Notice that these are all the various tickets that have been submitted so far that are requiring my attention, but let's go ahead and actually see what it looks like when we accept that chat conversation. Okay. Okay, and then if I pop back here to my other window, I just want to show you that indeed, his message is getting sent through, and we can see that I did respond to Rick, and he's going to say, hey, let me take a look at that for you. Now, as we're back here in the agent workspace, we have a lot of information available at our fingertips. So on the left, we can see that the particular brand that this is tied to. We can see who the requester is, and the requester is logged in, which is why we can see that data. We can change the form, which would populate with different fields and capture different bits of data. In this case, general inquiries is fine, so we'll leave it there. It's tagged automatically to the fact that the answer bot replied. It's the Entertainment 276 account. We can categorize that, what this is about, payment, other questions, delivery in this case, let's say, and then we can prioritize it and also set a type for this particular type of request. On the right-hand panel here, we have Rick's email, his phone number. We can see what he's been clicking around on the website and then any of the interactions he's had on the website as well. If I pop over here, there's also a knowledge center available here internally, which also can help the agent look at articles that might assist the customer. And then if I click here, we also have our customer 360. So here we can see some information about Rick's loyalty, what sort of customer he is. He's a gold status customer, so we'll give him the gold treatment. In terms of how we resolve this issue, if part of the resolution is creating that discount, we could actually go ahead, generate a coupon code, and that would be a way we can actually resolve this. But I'm going to also show another method of how we can resolve it. And then we have 5 most recent tickets. So if he has been submitting tickets for other issues, we can see that. Is this tied to another issue? That information is going to be available here. Now, before I respond here, I do also want to demonstrate, instead of a response, if we did want to do a call to Rick, and you can do both an inbound or an outbound call, but just in terms of this instance, it's easier to just perform an outbound. So I'll just go ahead and call my own cell phone just to show you that it does work. And I'm getting a call here from the agent workspace. I'm not going to pick it up here because I'm obviously, demoing.
Forwarded to an automated voice messaging system.
I'll hang up. And then as I do hang that call up, there will be a recorded recording of that call for quality management purposes. And if Rick ever does want to review that, if that was a longer call, that information will be retained there. So that's good to know. And then let's actually go ahead and respond to this via a macro. So a macro they're essentially pre-seeded responses that you can have. So this is great whether you have a bunch of new agents that you've onboarded and there's like a cookie cutter macro that they can tweak, or let's say 90% of your issues are specifically one issue. Why have your agent type the exact same thing when they can just use a macro, click on it, and the response is pre-seeded. So in this case, let's just say that the resolution for this was, hey, this is actually a back order, so you didn't get any sort of email confirmation. We apologize. I'm going to give you a 25% discount for your next order. So I'm going to go ahead and send this, and I'll pop back to my original window, and let me switch that here to my retail account. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. So Rick is happy with this resolution. Rate says it's a positive, and he can also leave a comment here, but we don't need to do that. We're good to go. And I can pop back to my agent workspace. And I can end the chat. Actually, let me actually submit this ticket as solved. And we could submit this as open, pending, or on hold. So there's various statuses in case this didn't get resolved right away. And then if I do submit it as solved, it will end the chat because we've found a resolution for this particular ticket. So that's kind of the quick and dirty in a nutshell of how we can, service our customers from a chat from the website. Additionally, this could have came in through an email. This could have came in through a phone call. Doesn't matter which channel it comes in through. It's going to still create that ticket in Zendesk. And then if that conversation needs to pick up through a different channel, that's okay. That's the whole idea. It's all going to be consolidated in one area. So that pretty much sums up the chat correspondence in a nutshell. So let's just talk about two other quick things real quickly. So we also have our Zendesk App Marketplace, and you might be thinking, hey, this is great, but what if I want to integrate with, Shopify or Salesforce? We do have a lot of these pre-built connectors already available. Most of the time, you're going to be able to find that within our App Marketplace. And if you can't find that, that's okay too. We do have other integration options where we have an open API, so there can be custom code built within that. We can bring in another partner that can develop that for you, or there's other partners that provide middleware to create integrations as well. So there's options there if it's not pre-built, but a lot of the times that they will be pre-built and they will be a low code or a no code solution, which makes it nice and easy to kind of interact with the integration depending on which systems you're connecting there. And then if I pop back here to my home, we can actually aggregate these tickets in different views. So here we have it broken out by social media and messaging, recent calls, delivery issues, returns and exchanges, and so forth. And then as we are getting all of these tickets entered and resolved within Zendesk, how can we analyze that data? And if I go to the top right, we can actually go to Explore, which is our reporting and analytics tool here. And this is going to give you better insights across the organization. So you can evaluate the trends of your customers, and it's really easy to build these dashboards for real-time analysis. So right now we've been living in support, so I'll just go ahead and click on our support dashboard and see what some of the information here is. So we can see a particular time frame we're looking at this data for. Created tickets, unsolved tickets, the tickets that are created by an hour, so we can see volume spikes. We can see spikes based on the day of the week. And then down here, we can actually see which channels are these tickets coming from. So that really gives you some insight into the business, and that can help you make decisions as to, if you need to hire people in a particular expertise, or you need to have people online at a particular time, right? On top of that, you can go ahead and you can share this dashboard to another user within Zendesk. We can go ahead and clone this and tweak this. We can even export this data via Excel, image, PDF, and CSV. So just because your data is within Zendesk, we're not holding it hostage. You can definitely get this outside of Zendesk to create additional tweaks if need be. We can also look at agent efficiency, first reply time, median, the first reply time bracket. So is it within 0 to 1 hour? Is it some of these tickets not even being replied, and how quickly are the resolutions? So all of that data lies here within the Explore tool. And really the main value here is it's going to allow you to keep your businesses in sync. With this out-of-the-box analytics tools, customers are able to see trends happening across their ticketing system and also find information about their overall customer experience, activities from the help center all the way to the chat. So that's pretty much all I have here. But just to kind of conclude, really the three main points, we showed you how Zendesk can reduce the customer effort to increase satisfaction, right? So your customers have those easy self-service tools, whether it's the help center or a chat bot, and then agents can see all of those tickets coming into one centralized area through the agent workspace. And then last but not least, an admin or a manager can view all of that data using our comprehensive reporting tool via Explore. So that pretty much sums it all up. And then I'll hand it back over to Ali here.
Thanks, Eric. Let me just make sure I share my correct screen here. Awesome. Can everybody see the demo screen? Cool. Well, just to bring it all back together, thank you for the fabulous demo, Ark. I think my biggest takeaway when it comes back, or comes down to rather, the 5 trends that we've talked about today is just how unified the experience is for the agent. So regardless of how your customer is reaching out to you, you're able to answer them and channel switch. And if you need to end a chat and follow up by a phone call or follow up by email, you have all of those options. And a lot of the tools that an agent needs to resolve an issue exist right there in the system, such as their order information over in the app panel, or any information about the customer history, contacts, that kind of thing. So thanks again, Ark. I appreciate it.
Of course.
All right, it is Q&A time. So we do have a couple of questions in the question box, but I would love if we could get some more. So folks, think about what you have questions about. Ask us anything, hopefully related to the topic. But we'd love to answer your questions now. So I'll give you a minute to get those in, and we'll get the ones that have already rolled in started. So the first one is kind of relevant to what I was just saying. It is, which support channels are included in Zendesk?
Yeah, so it's what I kind of mentioned in that first slide prior to the demo. So support, guide, chat, talk, explore, gather, and then sell is not included part of the baseline suite, but that can be purchased additionally if the customer is looking for a CRM solution.
Great. So, just to break it down by product type, thank you. But, I think of like email, a web form, chat, phone, social.
Yeah, sorry, phone.
That's okay.
Messaging and social as well. Such like if they're going to be messaging you through Facebook Messenger, Instagram, WhatsApp, all those social channels would be included as well.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. All right, we've got another one here, which is, how hard is it to implement? And Ark, I'm actually going to throw this over to you. I might be able to add some color in, but I know that we have some pretty good metrics about how easy Zendesk is to implement.
Yeah, just at a very high level. I mean, again, this type of question depends on the size and the complexity of the implementation, the customer size, and then which products are being implemented. But on the low end, it could be as quick as 6 weeks, and on the higher end, 12 weeks. And both of those are still very, very quick relative to other solutions.
Yeah, absolutely. It's pretty low code. As a platform as a whole, all the automations and business rules are pretty easy to manage from just an admin standpoint. You don't need to be a developer to get something like this up and running, and that was specifically built into the design as well, just to make sure that people can fish and they're not dependent, or it doesn't take a full day to deploy out a new field or something like that. So very easy to get up and running and very easy to manage on an ongoing basis. The next question I have here is about cost. So the cost of Zendesk, I'll address this. It really depends on what you need, but most of the times we see folks getting into one of the suite packages, which means that they have access to all of the different channels, or the omni-channel, as we like to say over here. And those packages begin at $49 a user a month. And we also have some simple packages which just include the support platform with email and web form. But for the most part, we see people beginning in the omni-channel suite. And the tools are very scalable, so they kind of grow with your business. You can add different channels on as you need to. My final question that I have here is, what other business tools does Zendesk integrate with?
Yeah, so there's quite a few, right? I mean, if there's an open API, we can essentially integrate with anything. But I mean, some of the top ones would be like, Salesforce or Shopify.
Great, yeah, and I know you shared the marketplace, which has tons and tons of different applications that Zendesk integrates with out of the box. We're also big fans of creating Zendesk integrations. And in fact, in-house at BrainSell, we've created an app framework that pretty much allows us to plug into any of your different business systems and serve up information, even proprietary on-premise kind of stuff, to serve up information like we saw in the unified agent workspace, so that you have that information, or your agents have that information at their fingertips. All right, that is all I have for questions, believe it or not, unless there is anybody else who would like to put something in the box. Going, gone. I want to thank everybody for joining us for today's Lunch and Learn, and thank you so much, Simeon and Ark, for participating. It was really great to have you both on today. Just as a reminder.
Thank you.
Right, as a reminder, we're going to be sharing the recording, and we will also be following up with you later this week to get feedback on content and schedule any next steps. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. We have one more question that I would love us to answer before I go on to the next steps here. This question is, how does this work with an aging population where they are used to person-to-person customer service?
Like in-person customer service?
I would imagine, yes, in-person customer service or on the phone customer service, sort of the personalized touch, perhaps.
Yeah, again, I mean, telephony is part of the solution, so we can have it cater specific to that. So it could just be phone calls that are coming in, and you don't even have an option for chat or email. That is very possible as well. As you can see, the recording is going to be recorded within Zendesk, and then we do provide some sentiment analysis too, to kind of understand, was it like a positive conversation? Was it a negative conversation? And then we do integrate with those third-party solutions as well. So if they are using like a Cisco, RingCentral, or another solution, we can feed that into Zendesk too.
Mm-hmm. So Zendesk would support like a pre-existing call center kind of structure where you're mostly on the phone.
Correct.
Awesome. And then I think from an agent perspective, still having that unified view is so crucial to helping people get their issues resolved quickly. I think, one thing that I've heard complaints from some of our call center customers about is wait times, and making sure that the time to resolution is really goes quickly when you have people on the phone, and having all that information in front of you is so crucial.
Yeah, and I can add to that. So we do support like many BPOs in general. So that's an entire segment that we support. And when it comes to phones too, I mean, there's a lot of stuff in the background that can be done to prevent those wait times, where we can have a callback feature, or if it's over a certain period of time, they just say, hey, you need to call back later. We have IVR menus, so depending on the type of support, it can go to a different route. If it's a type of customer that is at a higher level or loyalty tier, they can get routed separately. So there's a lot of ways you can kind of customize that telephony experience as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I would say from the more modern perspective, some of the chat box technology, I see it becoming very, very personalized as well, and being able to pull from different business systems to provide answers that are based on things like your order number.
Yeah.
All right. So I think that's going to be our last question for today. I want to just remind everybody that we're going to be sharing the recording and following up with you later this week to get feedback on our content and schedule any next steps We're also offering a complimentary audit of your customer experience processes to all attendees, where we'll review your business goals and objectives, conduct an efficiency assessment of your technology stack, and make recommendations for improvement that impacts your business goals. If you're interested in taking advantage of this, all you have to do is send an email to growth@brainsell.net. It should be right up there on the slide, and we'll get that scheduled for you. All right, have a great rest of the week. Thank you both, and bye everyone. Thanks for attending today.
Thanks again. Bye everyone.